It's time for another edition of PRosé with Vikki, Locke, and Cyndee Woolley from C2 Communications.
Hi, everybody. It's happy hour time again. PRosé, just a couple of PR chicks dishing about their favorite books, talking to fabulous authors. And today I am drinking butter. It's a very affordable Chardonnay in my Yeti cup to keep it nice and cold. And I was reading something, Cyndee, that with the reboot of Sex and the City, Cosmos are making a comeback. So 2 questions. Do you drink Cosmos? And since you're still in New York City, live from New York, it's Cyndee Woolley. New York. Have you seen any shooting, any filming around town?
Oh, I honestly haven't seen any film crews, but I'm going to start keeping a better eye out as we traipse around. So,
yeah. Even though it won't be the same without Samantha, I'm sorry. It just won't be.
No, definitely can't be the same without her. It was funny though, because my daughter and I were traipsing around and literally just Central Park, haircuts, visiting different places, and I had someone comment, "Oh, it's the Sex and the City experience," So it is trending. People are thinking about it, but I'm drinking a ginger beer today, which also seems to be the trend. It is not alcoholic, and it is not ginger ale. It is much stronger, and it's on every menu that we visit. So I'm loving ginger beer, and just a little spicy, something to kick you up. So,
is it nice and cold?
It's a cold drink, but it warms you up because the ginger's so hot and spicy. So, okay. Yeah.
Ginger beer.
You should try it.
Maybe I will.
Although in Florida, I don't think so.
Let's ask our guest today about ginger beer, because she will know a thing or two about that. Caroline Ridgway, she's the founder of C1B1 Communications. She is the editor of Kitchen Privileges. This is a cookbook, a beautiful cookbook I just saw when I went to one of her family's restaurants. It's the story of her father, Tony Ridgway, and his 50 years in the food industry in Naples, Florida. So if you have been to Naples, no doubt you have been to one of their many restaurants. One of my favorites is Bayside. Beautiful views. I've got to ask her about the one salad dressing that has wasabi in it that is to die for. Also, there's Tony's on 3rd, where I bought a bunch of wine there recently, Sukie's Wine Shop, and she is now with us live at Ridgway Bar and Grill. Caroline, welcome.
Hi, ladies. Nice to be with you. Cheers.
Cheers, my friend. Thank you for coming today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here with you.
What you drinking?
This is a Pinot Noir. It's from a vineyard called Ken Wright. Pinot Noir is one of my favorite wines. It's light. It's aromatic. It's soothing to the soul a little bit, I think, at the end of a long day. It's one of my favorite wines. Very drinkable. Yeah, highly recommend.
I want to thank you first, Cyndee. I got to tell her thanks before I forget how to say it. This small bottle of Belcar Semon Rosé. Yeah. I've been practicing.
So good.
I don't speak French, but I've never seen the small bottles before, and I stocked up. Thank you for having them.
Yeah, we keep a decent supply of split sizes in Tony's. Sometimes you just want a couple glasses. It's a nice thing to have, whether you're a single person or just a couple, or, for any reason, really, something you just want to try, something different. So we do try to keep some splits in stock, which is great.
And it's perfect for picnicking, going out to,
yes.
Well, not taking anything glass to the beach, but
Yes. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Winkety wink.
Yeah, and I heard your intro on the ginger beer. So, interestingly, ginger beer is the key ingredient in the classic cocktail, A Dark and Stormy.
Mhm.
So factor that into your
Wow.
drinking plan sometime. It's ginger beer and dark rum are the ingredients. It's an enjoyable cocktail.
I am. I'm gonna have to watch for that. See if I can get one of those.
Love
And
the name,
Yeah,
Dark and Stormy.
the dark and stormy. Yeah, it's a classic. It's a classic.
it's very appropriate that in summertime in Florida, right? With a dark and
Yes.
every afternoon.
The skies are frequently dark and stormy here. Yes.
So tell us about the cookbook. It's huge. If you want to lift it up,
It is
How
huge.
many-
Yeah.
it is. How many years did it take to put that together?
This is she. This is our baby. Some babies you clock in at, what is it, like 20, usually like 20 inches and 7 or 8 pounds or something. So our baby is like 13 inches and about 6 pounds. It took us several years, start to finish. It took us about 18 months to 2 years of really intensive, heavy duty lifting to get it finished. It was a project based in love and the family. This is a family business. My dad is celebrating his 50th year as a restaurateur in Naples later this year. October 4th, 1971 is when he started his career at a restaurant just around the corner from where I'm sitting now called the Wurst Place. And if you can put your culinary thinking hat on for a minute, it was WURST. So the ingredients, or the menu rather, heavily featured bratwursts and other sausages. What can you say? It was the 70s. I mean, things were a little different then. So we actually still have a bratwurst sandwich on our lunch menu, and it's sourced from the same provider in Wisconsin that he used back then. So that's kind of a little fun fact.
Wow.
So yeah, the book is enormous. It's over 500 pages long. It talks about my dad's history, his personal story. The first 2 chapters are kind of a mini memoir, a mini autobiography. And then there's just tons of recipes because, let's be honest, it's about the food.
And he didn't set out to be a chef, correct? He just loved food and it happened.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, he's self-taught. He did not go to culinary school. He grew up on an apple and peach orchard outside of Philadelphia in Chester County, which was a lot more rural back then than it is now. And he just had a fascination with and love for food from a very young age. The family lore is that at the age of 8 or so, he told his mother that he wanted a pie, and she said, "We'll figure out how to make it yourself." My grandmother was an amazing person, but she was a terrible cook. And so I think some of it was self-preservation on his part. So he just translated that passion into a career. He went into the Air Force out of college, and when he finished his assignment in the Air Force, he was trying to come up with what he wanted to do, and he was pretty sure he wanted to be in the restaurant industry in some capacity, but he was trying to decide what to do specifically. And we had family in Naples. My grandmother and my grandfather were already living here full time in 1971, as well as some other family members. And the Wurst Place was an existing restaurant that had come up for sale, and so Dad had the opportunity to buy it, and as they say, the rest is history. He hasn't looked back.
How rewarding is that to be diving in and documenting this family history that it's going to live for generations?
It was incredible. I'm really fortunate to get to work with my dad. Not to say that family businesses don't have their own challenging dynamics, but to have this time with him and this time together as a family is really incredible. And we're really proud of our business and the family nature of it. We have people who've worked with us. You hesitate even to call them employees because they've literally worked for my dad for anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 or more years.
Wow.
We have a handful of employees who have known me my entire life and like to remind me of that. So, the cookbook was a labor of love among some other things. but it's a treasure, the fact that we have it, that we can tell the story. It's really amazing. And a lot of people have bought it. They don't even cook. They just wanted to look at the pictures. They wanted to read the stories. They wanted to read the backgrounds, and have told us how much it means to them to revisit that. When Dad got into the business, Naples was a very sleepy town. There wasn't fine dining here. And he is credited with really revolutionizing the dining scene here in Naples. And now there's fine dining restaurants all over the place, and they're amazing. And it's a very chef-driven, innovative culinary town. But he really did help start that conversation, which is amazing.
What's it like growing up in that, I guess, growing up in kind of a kitchen?
I did grow up in the kitchen, yeah. I learned some very salty language from a very young age. But it was amazing. When you're a kid, and you have these sort of external views that aren't necessarily accurate. And I remember having these thoughts when I was a sassy adolescent, I wish my dad had a normal job like all my friends. But then you really come to respect what he's built. And he's very hands-on. I mean, he's 77 years old and he still works 6 days a week. So it's very tight-knit. We really care about the business. We really care about what goes on here. And growing up, I mean, we sure did eat well. That's for sure.
Yeah,
we ate out a lot.
I have a funny kitchen story. You probably don't. Maybe you do, but my parents actually were snowbirds and had a place in Naples for years and years. Mm-hmm. My dad was in Ohio. My mom was down here, and they were getting ready to go on some kind of trip somewhere. Mm-hmm. Well, he normally went out to eat when she was gone, but for some reason, the night before he was set to get on a plane and the two of them were going to meet and go to Europe, I believe, he decided to cook something, started a grease fire, wasn't quite sure how to put it out, used a little water, the grease fire grew, fire department came, $10,000 worth of damage. But he decided to best tell my mother when they were 30,000 feet in the air so she couldn't scream at him.
Yeah, on their way to Europe. I believe it. We definitely have some guests who dine with us because they do not cook, and their kitchens are foreign objects to them. Yeah, it's great. We do a fair amount of business on Monday nights when all the country clubs are closed, because where else are they going to go?
So what's the best funny kitchen story that comes out of your family?
Oh my gosh, it would be impossible to try to think of them all over the years. I think a really good anecdote is, so we had one of my dad's first restaurants was called Truffles Cafe, and it was named for a chocolate Labrador retriever that he and my mom had when they were first married, and his name was Truffles, and he was named for the chocolate, not the mushrooms. And he was very mischievous. So they were, the summer of 1975, I think, they were managing an inn in New Hampshire, and Truffles was with them. And one day the health inspector came to look at the place, and Truffles was not only in the kitchen, but in the garbage can. He had jumped in the garbage can to root around and look for snacks. But again, it was the 70s. The rules were a little lax, I guess, so they were fine. Yeah, Truffles. So the legend of Truffles lives on. Yeah. But it's a wild industry. I mean, there's no question about it. It's a very high pressure, high intensity industry. It attracts a lot of different kinds of personalities and lifestyles. It's a very dynamic life to lead. So you kind of have to get into it knowing that it's never going to be a dull moment. That's for sure. Just a couple days ago, I will share this anecdote with you. This was not a kitchen story, but I was here at the restaurant, and I'd gone into the ladies' room, and somebody had clearly just before me gone in and smoked a cigarette in there, which was just not super pleasant,
Yeah.
And again, it was a dark and stormy kind of day, so I guess they just felt like their cigarette was more important than getting wet.
Mm.
Now, Cyndee was telling me that being in New York, the dynamic has changed so much since the pandemic, and they're actually trying to, well, you explain the new outdoor dining scene in New York City.
You know, in trying to bolster and you know, give patrons access and for this restaurant industry, they've built these structures outside of the restaurants. And, you know, coming from Florida, we totally, outdoor dining is just plop a table out there because year round you can be outside. In North Carolina, they were putting little pop-up tents up, but in New York, they're putting these wooden structures up that it's like an open shed. So there's one side that's open, roof, and then windows and such. I was reading an article. One of the restaurants had put $400,000 in this outdoor structure.
Wow.
That's like probably 40 feet long by 10 foot deep, right? And they were explaining that he wasn't really making the money back off of the seats within this structure, but from the marketing and the people knowing that they're open, and creating this visibility. So these are not just like shacks out there. They've got lighting, they've got the full grass, you know, carpeting. They've got really, really fancy spices and herbs and flowers, and it's a whole ambiance, right? So now there's this movement to keep it in this post-pandemic world. And I actually thought of you because there's this PR movement where they are trying to, or they just had a contest to vote for your favorite outdoor dining structure, you know, some visibility about how pretty and beautiful they are and how they enhance the scene. So it's, you know, I think COVID's changed the restaurant industry for sure. And, you know,
it has. We were very fortunate and felt very fortunate, continually expressed our feelings of good fortune over the winter not to be up north because we didn't have to worry about it. You know, there were certainly days, individual days or weeks when we were limited on our outdoor dining because of the weather. You know, even in Florida, occasionally it gets rainy and cool, but for the most part, we were able to optimize our outdoor spaces and accommodate people's wishes. There were challenges. There's always challenges. It was difficult, but I would say that most people were understanding and were patient and were just grateful to be out and about doing something that felt positive and felt normal. You know, people come to our restaurants because they're comfortable here. You know, we've been in business for so long. We have generations of families, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 generations of single families that have been here and come here. So we want to be that place for people where they come and feel welcome and feel comfortable and feel safe. And, you know, we did not build any additional outdoor structures. Both of our restaurants have a lot of outdoor seating as it is, so we're lucky. But we did everything we could to make it as safe an experience as possible. We spent our own money to install filtration systems in our air conditioning so that people would know that we were doing everything we could. We were very aggressive in our messaging. We sent out a lot of email newsletters and social media posts just so our customer base knew what we were doing, that they were our concern, as well as our employees, our team. I mean, we want to keep everyone safe. Without a team, we don't have a restaurant.
Were you able to keep your team intact?
For the most part, yeah, we've been lucky. Again, I think that speaks to our legacy and our history here. You know, there's always some turnover. It's in Naples, it's a very seasonal business, as it is in many places, and so you always have some fluctuations from winter into the off season. But a lot of folks did stay with us So we were lucky to keep people and keep people working and keep people engaged. And our clientele responded positively. People were very grateful and very appreciative and very responsive to the messaging that we were sending out, that it meant a lot to them, that it didn't go unnoticed. So yeah, I can see how that would be the case for this restaurant in New York that you're talking about, Cyndee. You know, you're getting as much positive impact and return from just the story as from the action itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Was it harder to write the cookbook, or would it be harder for you to learn how to cook some of the recipes?
Oh my gosh. You know, it's kind of a yes/no question. I mean, writing the cookbook was really difficult because it's just such an intense project. And I've been involved in other projects of similar magnitude in the past, but it was a first for my family. And so just trying to project manage it was a big deal. There are some recipes in the book that I can handle no problem. There are some that I would probably never attempt.
Like what? Like what?
So one of the recipes that my father was insistent on including, even though we knew that the chances of people really diving in on it were slim, is something called a duck galantine. It's a very old-fashioned recipe. It's something he served at his restaurant in the 70s. It's a French style. It's a French technique. And the first step is that you have to bone an entire duck. And then there's like a million steps that come after that. And it's very fine dining. It's very classical. But there's just, I can't even imagine. I mean, I would destroy the poor duck and it would be such an ordeal. I can't even imagine trying to make that happen. But I'm pretty competent in the kitchen. I mean, people do ask me, do you like to cook? And I do like to cook. I don't love all the cleaning that comes along with it. Sometimes it's easier to just go to a restaurant and let them do it for you.
When I was in college, I had a roommate that hated to cook, and I loved to cook, and she was fine cleaning, and I cooked every meal, and she cleaned every meal. It was a perfect roommate for that year.
Yeah, that's amazing. That was kind of my parents' arrangement. My mom is not a big cook, and she always joked that one of the reasons she married my dad was so he would cook, and she would do the dishes, and she didn't really mind it.
Are you friends with famous chefs? I mean, do chefs like hang out together and dish about, like all of us in PR, we can get together and we can talk about something?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's definitely industry camaraderie. Yeah, I mean, we know some, I guess, what you would consider famous chefs. I'm trying to think who you might have heard of.
Like, has Emerald ever come in and said, okay, I want to have your deboned duck?
I don't know if Emerald's ever been here. I mean, Dad's met some of the really tier one chefs through the wine festival when they've been in town for the Naples Winter Wine Festival in past years. But Naples, isn't really considered a major foodie destination. We don't get a lot of the really premier chefs who float in and out of town. They're more likely to go to Miami for the food festival and things like that. But we do have a friend, her name is Carrie Nahabedian. She's out of Chicago. She has won all kinds of awards. She has a restaurant in Chicago right now called Brandy, and she's amazing. She's absolutely incredible, and she would certainly be considered a top of the line industry leading chef. So if you're ever in Chicago, go to her restaurant. It's amazing. It's exquisite, fine dining, French cuisine, incredible.
Sounds good. Sounds delicious.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I could talk about food all day.
Well, I've asked chefs before. A friend of mine, she had several hotel and restaurant chefs to her house, and she was cooking for them. And I said, aren't you intimidated? And they all said, because that's what they do day in and day out. That is their job. They just love the fact that someone is willing to cook for them. So is your dad the same way?
Yeah, it's pretty true. You know, if somebody's cooking for him, he's just thankful. He doesn't really care. He has actually really pretty simple food tastes when it comes to his just day-to-day subsistence. One of his most favorite, absolutely treasured foods is a hot dog.
Really?
He loves hot dogs, and he cooks them in butter in a saute pan. None of this boiling nonsense. You know, he wants them with a nice sear on the outside and the good flavor of the butter. And then you also have to griddle the bun. This is essential. But he loves a hot dog. I mean, the man loves a hot dog. Sometimes he will help out in the kitchen if we're with friends and families, just because he's comfortable there. He enjoys it. And he really does truly still love to cook, so it's not a hardship for him. But yeah, I mean, if you invite him over to your house and offer to cook him dinner, he's just going to say, thank you.
And here's Oscar Mayer, and he's going to be happy.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he may or may not try to give you tips. It depends, though, a little. I mean, he does try not to overstep. But if you asked, he might.
You've never thought of giving him that toaster oven that's got the hot dogs and then the bun and the toaster oven?
I have not seen this, but it sounds like I should file it away as a gift idea.
I think you should. That sounds like a stocking stuffer gift idea to me. I think it sounds like Henniker Schlemmiker or something, and the magazines on the airplanes, when you can fly again.
Yeah, no kidding. No, I mean, we're a foodie family. Whenever we go out to eat or when we travel, we love to find local restaurants to go to. We have a handful of favorites in some of our places that we go to a lot. One I can absolutely recommend. Well, there's a couple I'd love to recommend. If you're ever in Burlington, Vermont, go to Hen of the Wood. It's named for the Hen of the Wood mushrooms. It's the most amazing local restaurant. I mean, they source as many local ingredients as possible. The cuisine is the menu is always changing. The cuisine they just do such a phenomenal job. It's a really, really great restaurant. And then I'll give a shout out to our really good friend, Eric Olsen. If anybody's ever in Bar Harbor, Maine, he's got a little Italian restaurant there called Mama DiMattio's. And Eric's just a great guy. He worked for my dad when he was in high school in the kitchen. And he's now owned his own restaurant in Bar Harbor for 30-some years. So it's just good quality comfort food, Italian. Yeah.
So do you get to travel and do research every year for the upcoming menu, or?
Sometimes. I mean, it's not quite as formal as that, but when we travel, we do take opportunities to go find restaurants to go to, and it certainly generates thoughts and ideas for the menus for the fall. Yeah, it's one of the fun things about it. And we all as a family love food, and we love talking about it, and so it's a hobby as much as it is a vocation.
And how much would it cost me to get the recipe for the wasabi dressing on your salmon salad at Bayside?
At Bayside?
Which I dream about that salad.
Do you?
People said if you had the grouper sandwich, I said, well, I always get the salmon salad because it's so fabulous.
It is really good. Oh my God. I don't know. I'll have to ask. I've never asked about that recipe. I like it. And I like spicy food. To me, sometimes it's maybe a little bit on the edge. Like, I like it, but a little toned down, maybe.
That perfect kick. No, don't change it. It's perfection.
I won't change it. I'm just saying, for me, sometimes just maybe tone it down a little. But I do like spicy.
I'm sure her stomach couldn't handle it, but it is the bomb. I love it.
Yeah, that's a good salad. It is.
Well, this has been so much fun. I'm sure, do you want to give out a website if people are saying, okay, I've got to travel to Naples and I'm going to go check out these restaurants?
Yeah, definitely. For Ridgway Bar and Grill, it's just as easy as www.ridgwaybarandgrill.com. The one thing I will tell you is that's not easy is that we like to be difficult, and we spell our last name Ridgway with no E. So If you type it in Ridgeway, I don't know where that takes you, to be honest. I've never checked. But Ridgway Bar and Grill. We also like our website addresses to be very long and complicated. And so Bayside is Bayside Seafood Grill and Bar.com. But if you just go to your favorite search engine and type in Ridgway Naples and Bayside Naples, you'll find them. That might be the easiest way to do it. And we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, so come on down. We're here. We're open every day, unless there's a hurricane or a pandemic, I guess.
Bite your tongue.
And drink your wine.
Yes. Indeed.
Well, cheers to you. Thanks again for being with us on PRosé. And we will see you, hopefully, bon appetit, at one of your fabulous restaurants.
Yes, I look forward to it. Nice to be with you ladies today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Join us next week for another edition of PRosé with Vikki, Locke, and Cyndee Woolley from C2 Communications.